The projection approach yields a substantially larger number. It suggests that the employment as of the second quarter is 3.6 million higher than it otherwise would have been. By this estimate, the Recovery Act has met the president's goal of saving or creating 3.5 million jobs 2 quarters earlier than anticipated.
That is Christine Romer, and she said it with a smile, so I guess we have to believe it.
Mission accomplished. Top Line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Karl.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest news and analysis from the world of politics. It's twitter.com/the note where we always smile, John.
Absolutely. And I've got to get right into this. We're still talking about what Robert Gibbs said about the Republicans being able to take back the House. And now it is Pelosi versus Gibbs. Politico and some other Hill publications have a great story about a meeting last night where this is a quote Politico has from Pelosi during a closed meeting with Democrats. How could Gibbs know what is going on in our districts? Some may weigh his words more than others. We have made our disagreement known to the White House. Ouch.
Wow.
She's upset about this.
And to be clear, Robert Gibbs was stating the truth.
Yes.
This is what the numbers are, no matter what you believe. He didn't say he thinks that Republicans are going to take over the House, but this
although pointedly on Sunday, he didn't say that he didn't think they were going to take it over.
He's saying that now. He's taking care of it. Certainly, you know, this is one of those classic Washington gasps, but a lot of pushback from the Hill, as we've been talking about this week. Next up, magic. As you heard Christine Romer say, this is literally, I would say, in honor of Joe Biden, unbelievable story, because the Obama administration is reporting the stimulus saved or created 3 million jobs. And it is on track, and this is the big shocker. It is on track, John.
It's ahead of schedule.
Ahead of schedule to save or create 3.5 million jobs by the end of this year. This, of course, is the metric that is absolutely unknowable, unmeasurable, saved or created jobs. The administration, though, leaning into this pretty heavily and saying this has actually worked. It has worked exactly and better than we anticipated.
There's a risk here, though. I mean, when you are out there saying that we have done what we said we were going to do, that we have succeeded, and people are still out of work, we're still looking at an unemployment rate well over 9%, you know, it becomes problematic. so you know, you can tout the success, but you've got to be careful. Next up, dang! In a vindication for Howard Stern, Janet Jackson, and who knows who else, a 3-judge panel has now said that the FCC's indecency rules are simply overly broad and too vague, which may put the FCC out of the business of policing wardrobe malfunctions. And I don't even know. I haven't looked into what the implications are for Top Line.
For webcasts like Top Line, yeah.
But this could be big.
This is our chance. Any words you want to throw out?
Dang, that's what I went.
All right, dang, that's as far as we'll go. We'll have to look into it before we go any further. And finally, True Love, more happy news to report. This is Bristol and Levi, and they are back together again. They are getting married. Take a look at the picture from the cover of the new Us Weekly, the happy family right there. And the best part is there will be no premarital sex, according to the soon-to-be married couple.
All right, Klein, you've gone too far.
Oh, come on now.
I mean, in your effort to get a Sarah Palin #4 Top Line, you have gone too far.
She's reserved the space, and she deserves it.
Do we really care?
Yes, this is America's First Family, or something like that. Alaska's First Family, perhaps. All right. We begin today, though, on a much more somber and serious note with the chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, Chris Van Hollen, a Democrat from Maryland. And Mr. Chairman, I want to start with this issue we just talked about of Robert Gibbs on Sunday. I know you've been asked about it a number of times, but I want to just ask, how was this received by you and by others in your caucus to hear Robert Gibbs say this on a Sunday show that, yes, there's a chance?
You know, after the Supreme Court's FCC ruling, I can tell you exactly how I feel. No, seriously, all kidding aside, as you guys pointed out, what Gibbs did not do was complete the sentence, which he did complete a couple days later, which is that the Democrats will retain a majority in the House. We have been saying, we at the DCCC, for more than 18 months, that this is going to be an incredibly politically competitive year. It's going to be a political dogfight out there. All he said, as I interpret it, was there's a mathematical possibility of what might happen, but not a probability. And he made that very clear just 2 days ago, that he expects the Democrats to retain a majority in the House. Now, look, this is a great inside conversation within Washington, inside the Beltway. I do believe that what voters really care about is what the Republicans are saying about what they would do if they were in the majority. We heard it from Joe Barton on their energy policy. We heard it from John Boehner in his opposition to Wall Street reform, describing the financial meltdown as an ant and trivializing what's happened to the American worker. So let's focus on the choices, and that's what we should be taking out from this little debate within Washington, is how to frame this election, what the choices are to the American people, because the Republicans have gotten away for far too long with just carping and whining and saying no, and the real scandal is what they would actually do if they were to have control of the Congress.
So how bad is the environment now, though? Because we've been talking for some time about, this would be a difficult year for you. I mean, Troy, you were saying this almost immediately after the last election. But I mean, we saw like the ABC Washington Post poll that had 62% saying that they want to look around for somebody else to vote rather than their own member of Congress. Has the erosion been worse than you anticipated?
Well, there are a number of things at play, as you know. Number one, there's a structural issue, because the Democrats have won virtually every swing seat in the country in the last 2 cycles. Number two, you have that natural, historic, pull with the first off-year election, and then you have the economy. So, look, I think the most revealing information coming out of that Washington poll was one that Rick actually mentioned on a TV show the other night, which is that people do not have confidence in the Washington Republicans. They do not see them as a viable alternative. And why would they? I mean, why would you bring back the same guys that created the economic mess in the first place to reinstate all those policies? And so that will be the question and the framework that's put to the voters in each of these districts.
I think you just admitted that you watched Fox News, but beyond that, I want to ask, you're going to be at the White House. You're going to be at the White House later today with other House leaders talking about this. I just want to ask generally: is the White House, in your mind, engaged on 2010 as fully as they can be, or are they really thinking about 2012 already?
No, they are engaged in 2010. A couple things. The president for the last many months has been clearly framing this election as that choice. I mean, he's talked about John Boehner's comments and the fact that the Republicans have been, huddling with all the Wall Street lobbyists to kill financial reform. He's talked about the consequences of their energy policy, which favors big oil versus American jobs. So he's been very clear on all that. And the White House knows that the day after the election, like it or not, it's going to be interpreted as a referendum on the performance of the Obama administration. That is the way people will interpret this election. So they understand they've got a lot at stake.
I wanted to ask you about the NAACP's action this week, passing a resolution essentially labeling elements of the Tea Party movement as racist. Do you agree with that?
The Tea Party movement is an amorphous movement. So I would say that the Tea Party movement as a whole cannot be easily identified. And I think the NAACP made a distinction as far as I understand what exactly they said. What they pointed out was at many of these rallies, you certainly have elements that are racist. I think that's indisputable. I mean, we've seen some of the signs, but they called upon the Tea Party movement as a whole to condemn those remarks. That's how I understand what the NAACP did. But no, I think you cannot characterize the whole Tea Party organization as racist. I don't think you can, and I don't think that they did. I'd have to look at exactly what the context was, but they pointed out that what we have all seen and heard with our own eyes and ears, there are clearly elements within the Tea Party movement that are racist. But again, that is not to say that the whole movement is. No.
I want to ask you about the meeting tonight again. You're going to be talking about the agenda over these next couple of weeks and months. There isn't that much legislative time left. What, to your mind, has to get done? What does Congress have to pass between now and November for you to be able to go to the voters and say, look, we got done what we needed to?
Well, I think it's essential that we do finally enact a Wall Street reform despite the objections of the Republicans. Looks like we're on our way to doing that. The president will be able to sign that bill. I think it's absolutely essential that we pass the supplemental appropriations legislation for national security and the other provisions that are in that legislation. I think there are a whole number of other important pieces of legislation. I do think the Disclose Act is going to be a statement of people as to whether or not they think that the American people have a right to know who is spending all these money in these races. And that's something that certainly will have to be debated and voted on in the Senate. But the most important legislation that I still think needs to move is to free up more credit for small businesses. The House has passed that legislation to provide a greater lending facility. The Senate needs to pass that, and there are other provisions that provide incentives for small businesses to invest now by, for example, making sure they don't have to pay a capital gains tax on investments made. These are very important measures for jobs. And the final thing is we want to make sure we pass this legislation to close the loopholes that create perverse incentives for big American corporations to ship U.S. jobs overseas. Here we're debating unemployment compensation, which we should also make sure we pass. And we've seen
it's a long list.
Well, it is, but it's an important list for jobs in the American worker.
All right, Congressman Chris Van Hollen, the chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, thanks for joining us on Top Line.
Good to be with you.